Sweet. Molly Mahoney, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm so good. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, me too. I'm nervous as hell, but they say that nervous is just excited, so I'll say I'm excited too.
That's the best way.
Sweet, awesome. I would love to start this off with a quote and then get your thoughts on the quote.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure, I'm sure a few of my audience people will know who you are. But for those who don't know who you are, you've been in the coaching space for a decent while, but since AI started to take over, you fully made the decision to not just surround your business with AI, but teach other people how to surround their business with AI. And I know we're still really in the baby phases, even though it doesn't seem like it, because it's only been, what, 2, maybe 3 years since AI has been around for a while, but it's been like 2, 3 years since AI has become a part of the mainstream.
Yeah.
So one thing that runs through people's head is being replaced by AI, and there's a
Mm.
quote. If AI can simulate human thought, then what truly separates us apart from AI?
Okay. That is a who said that? Do you know? Or is that just
ChatGPT
like
said that.
that's
See, even you were like, who said that?
that's very meta. Well, I mean, I think then my question would be like human thought is one thing, right?
hmm
But human emotion, human connection, human memory. This is can I say something kind of dark actually?
Go for it.
Response
Yeah.
to this?
This is the Authentic Influencer podcast, so say what you want.
Okay. I love that. Did you know we're doing a new podcast called Authentically Awesome, which
Oh, what a
these have
coinky
such a
dink.
great Venn diagram. I know, amazing. So I had this thought this morning, and I actually thought about writing a post about this, and then I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to write that because it sounds too creepy, but I'm just going to say it to you. You can write about it. So
Okay.
I think our dog passed
Yeah.
away a couple weeks ago, and
Yes.
it was like a really.
Mhm.
I mean, I always knew she was going to die before we did. Like that was like what you expect with the dog, but it was very unexpected, and it hit me in a
Yeah.
way that was way worse than I thought, and it like
Yeah.
really pretty much wrecked me. And
Yes.
um, I started thinking, like, when a dog, I think about Sarah McLachlan and talk about like animals or whatever. Like that, the commercial is
Yeah.
like
For
sad.
37 cents a day.
Exactly. And there's like, we think about her singing and all of that, and that like taps into an emotion, but there's something totally different when it's
Yeah.
your dog. And I was thinking, like, what is it about that? And really,
Yes.
it's the memories and it's the stories that we've told
hmm
ourselves about
hmm
that animal, about that person, about that
Yeah.
thing, right?
hmm
And and I think while ChatGPT can tell stories and we can give it data and we can say write a story about this thing, it's never going to actually have
Yeah.
that that je ne sais quoi, that like, magic. I don't even really know what that means, even though my kids go to a
hmm
French school. But it's
hmm
it's never going to have that unexpected magic that's really deeply connected to your stories, to my
hmm
stories, to um those little nuances. And that's where it really makes a difference, because we can have like, we can clone a sheep or whatever, but I'm sure
Yeah.
that with a natural, real sheep, there's going to be different things. My husband keeps saying like the certified organic, like vegetables or whatever. There's a different thing when
Yeah.
something is certified organic. And even people who are really good at writing posts with AI that they like tell it to write in a certain style. Now
hmm
I see their posts, and whether AI is writing it or not, I'm like, oh, that was AI. You know?
hmm hmm
I don't know if
Yeah.
that answers your
I
question.
No, absolutely. I'd be very interested in hearing your insight because for a handful of my clients, this happened. I discovered this like 2, 3 weeks ago. So I was writing a VSL for one of my clients, and essentially, it usually takes me like 5, maybe 6 days to get this VSL done. And I remember
Mm.
spending 8 hours or at least for the first day, spending 8 hours doing the framework and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, what if I plug this into ChatGPT? There's like no way this is going to be spot on. And within literally the first try, I gave it the brand deep dive. I gave it a PDF doc of their sales page, of their current sales page, and first try, it wrote it exactly the way that I would write that VSL. So when it comes to something on the levels of that, because you said, you personally can tell when it's AI, um, how do you ensure that you don't get lazy with your creativity and just relying on AI?
Oh man, that's actually really good. Because, well, I mean, and I think one thing that we can celebrate is whether or
Hmm.
not you're using AI. If you have a framework, like even just what you just described, you said, I gave it the brand doc, I gave it the whatever you said you gave it, all those things, those are pieces of a framework that you've developed or learned from other people or whatever over time. And
Yeah,
that's like a way of automating the process and having foundations that allow you to be a little lazy intentionally,
yeah.
right? Like maybe part of it is that we do need to allow ourselves to be a little bit lazier and really save the energy for the editing and honestly, like the tapping into
Hmm.
the space. Because if you use
Hmm.
AI to save you, like let's say it usually takes you 5 days to do that letter, whatever,
Yeah.
you're able to put it into AI and do the heavy lifting,
Hmm.
then that's where you come back and you add
Hmm.
in the little bits of
Hmm.
sparkle or quirkiness or whatever that
Hmm.
really makes it that more human side of things. But I think
I
that's where
got
the
you.
real magic comes is where we allow AI, we set the frameworks in place to allow AI to do the stuff that can be more systematized. And then we
Hmm.
use it as a little bouncing off point to bring in more of our own magic.
I got you. So, kind of riffing off of that, what do you feel like are the limits or the fallbacks that AI doesn't really have in being able to mimic human abilities and stuff like that? Because we are slowly leading into stuff to where, I mean, they're making AI robots and stuff like that. Um, where do you feel, at least in this current present moment, until we get to that Futurama type of present moment, where do you feel AI is kind of lacking right now with human abilities?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is that we can spot when it's being formulaic.
Hmm.
Like it, even just as simple as like if we look at like a PAS format, right? Or here's another one
Yes.
that's like okay, like PAS is obviously like problem, agitate, solve.
Prompt solution. Yeah.
Right. And so as a human, you can tie in, you can start to get to the point where you're being too repetitive in your Facebook ad copy of everything as a PAS, right? And like
Hmm.
have a little bit of variant nuance in it. I don't feel that it's bringing in that variant nuance. The same thing is like, which I know this is all changing, but the
Yes.
CAPTCHA test where you have
Yeah.
to
Verify you're human.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And those
Yeah.
little movements, supposedly what those things do is that they're watching like the
Yeah.
fact that it takes you don't go through a very robotic streamlined path to make it happen. It's like
Hmm.
it's kind
Yeah.
of sloppy. And I think that's what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the sloppiness. The
Hmm.
sloppiness is the authenticity indicator.
Yeah.
Now you could
Yeah.
program that in and you could say, write me 10 thumbnail titles, make sure you have a
Mhm.
typo in it. But if it's calculated that way, then it's
Yeah.
calculated that way.
Yeah, there's actually a person that I follow. His tag is RPN, something like that, but his stuff is all about AI. And basically, he said that his theory when it comes to the CAPTCHA and the make sure that you're not a bot test, he said that his theory is that AI will eventually be able to get to the point because there's AI that can talk to AI, and he thinks that it's going to get to the point where when it comes to that CAPTCHA test, it's because AI does what the human tells it to do. So a human can simply give an AI a prompt that when it comes to the CAPTCHA test to create a second AI that can overcome that test. I'm not sure if you
Oh
think
yeah,
there's
yeah,
any
yeah. And I
validity
think
to
that's
that.
100% true.
Yeah.
Um, so I think those things will get better and become more. It's like the
Hmm.
rough edges, right? It's um, we have a my family has a tree trimming company, and when trees need to be removed, rather than having them go into a landfill, they save as much as they can of the actual log to turn it into beautiful wood
Hmm.
slabs and things. And
Yeah.
there's something about the live edge slab that is really raw and organic. And I think that's the piece that is still tricky, even as
Hmm.
a robot that's like an actual robot, right? If when it becomes so predictable, that I
Hmm.
think is what is the problem because then it just becomes white noise.
Yeah.
And I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of where people are going wrong with AI in their marketing today is that
Hmm.
at first it was like, oh my gosh, that's cool, but now it's like, nah, okay, yeah, it can write
Yeah.
a blah, blah, blah. It's just become
Yeah.
a thing. It's lost its um authenticity, if we do say, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for us specifically, anybody who's delved in the online space, even if like you're barely becoming, say, like a freelance copywriter, I mean, you know about AI. But actually the other day, this is kind of what made me realize that AI really isn't at the level that at least people surrounding us think that it's at. Because I remember going out the other day, I was actually grocery shopping with my grandma. I remember going out with my grandma, helping her get some groceries and stuff, and I'm looking at life. And there really isn't, at least when it comes to actually going out and about, there really hasn't been like any changes at all with the AI stuff. So I think for people like us, when you delved into the AI space, we think it's a lot further along than it actually is.
Yeah, I think the only places really like there's some restaurants, right, where you can now order
Mm,
in a different way. There's you know, with that in mind, there's also even on the digital side, when a lot of
yeah.
these tools have big, huge updates,
Hmm.
they aren't releasing the big, huge updates in a way where people can actually
Yeah.
use them. And it's like, whoa, check out this white paper from
Yeah.
so and so tool of what's possible. And it's like, but is it really possible? Because I know you're saying it's
Yeah.
possible on this white paper, and you've done this study that
Hmm.
makes it look cool, which is important to keep an eye on that.
Hmm.
So that when things are possible, we're able to use them more efficiently, and we get that like
Yeah.
that what's it called? The I always talk about it. The early adopter curve, you know?
Yes. Hmm.
So I think it's important for us to pay attention to that stuff, but um it's interesting to see where it's
Yeah.
actually showing up.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
So I want to touch base on one more little deep topic thing that we can get into, like how people can use it for their businesses and stuff like
Okay.
that. I mean, this is kind of along the lines of business. I'm not sure how up to date you keep when it comes to stuff like OpenAI, Grok, Gemini, NVIDIA, just like the big parent companies with the AI and everything like
Yeah.
that. So I'm not sure if you've seen recently, AI has kind of been in a bit of trouble lately, because there are people that are slowly coming out. Ilya kind of came out about it. There are people that are slowly coming out about how Sam Altman isn't really treating AI as ethical as basically when the company started, they wanted it to be ethical.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be a non-profit. Then they switched to for-profit. And he's basically, I mean, I don't know how valid this is, but he's basically signing contracts that kind of gives away data that he shouldn't give. So for you personally, as well as the people that you teach to integrate AI and stuff into their businesses, whenever it comes to like ethical forks in the road, because someone can
Hmm.
easily utilize AI and be like, give me all the dark psychology methods to basically make anybody buy. I mean, for some people that's immoral, for some people that's not immoral. Because when it comes to a company, you want to capitalize as much as possible, but it's also utilizing dark psychology, stuff like that. Whenever it comes to those ethical dilemma forks in the roads, how do you navigate that yourself? And do you talk to your clients and stuff like that when it comes to navigating things like that?
Yeah. So I heard a quote when I was in college that
Hmm.
they say is a quote of the Buddha, whatever that means, right? Whether,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is like the quote that I had it on my fridge. I think it may even still be on the fridge in our garage because I had a magnet with it. And the
Yeah.
quote is,
Next to your Lamborghini.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right next to my Lambo. The truth of the matter is right next to like piles of baby clothes from when my kids were younger or whatever. And my mom's yarn from when my mom passed away. I've like saved all of her yarn in the garage. So we can't even fit a
Yeah,
car in
of
our garage, but
course.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but the quote says, believe nothing, no matter who says it, even if I
Hmm.
say it, unless it
Hmm.
resides within your own heart and your own
Hmm.
reason.
I got you.
And I love that quote.
Hmm.
And I believe that there are possibilities for this to be going down a totally dark path, right? But
Absolutely.
when it comes to our own, so let's like there's a few different things. When it comes to our own data, there are some people that are in our communities who are super afraid of putting any of their material into AI.
Hmm.
And to them I say, like, have you ever posted on the internet? And they say yes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
great. There's nothing, the cat is out of the bag, right?
Hmm.
Now, do I tell them to put their passwords and their social security number and all of that into AI? No, don't be
Hmm.
stupid. Like, and I know there are people in the beginning, like I remember hearing way
Yeah.
back when ChatGPT first came out, you know this, but we already had an AI
Yes.
program for about a year and a half, almost two years before that ish,
Hmm.
a while before ChatGPT came out. Um, so when it first came out, people there was some thing that I heard that there was like a medical office or a dental office or something that loaded all of their client data in to have it analyze it. And that was
Hmm.
like majorly breaking HIPAA laws and things like that.
Yeah.
So on the security piece of it, you have to be careful about what you're loading in. But that's the same exact thing I would say about don't post that on Facebook. Like whatever you're willing to
Hmm.
post in a blog post,
Hmm.
you can it's already out there.
Hmm.
The second thing that I would say is that there are ways that people are getting tricked. Like, what's that new tool that just came out over the weekend? There was, or last week, Flux AI. Have you seen that?
I think I heard about it.
So they are creating wild human likeness images,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
images
Like
that look like
a
real
like
humans.
Heijen level or better than
Yeah,
Heijen?
but it's not a video avatar, just an
Okay.
image, like
Yeah.
photo.
Hmm.
And the fingers are getting better.
Yeah.
The text is still not the best, but it's like getting
Hmm.
there. And what they were showing was that how a lot of tools have you hold up a picture of yourself with a
Hmm.
verification
Like
thing
you
that
hold
it's
up your hand. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You hold up like your driver's license. That
Hmm.
those types of images are going to become easier and easier to create.
Hmm.
So I think in the world of politics, there's like major, insane,
Yeah.
misinformation that's spreading. And even
Hmm.
my son was looking for something on YouTube today, and you know how like random things just
Hmm.
pop through? It said like Donald Trump fails IQ test was like one of the videos that popped up. And my younger son read it out loud, and I was like, he said Donald Trump fails IQ test, and I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm sure that's not whatever. That's just like a clickbait headline. And he said,
Yeah.
but mom, it said it right there. And I was like, okay, we need to have a real talk right
Yeah.
now. So
Hmm.
it's really up to us to go back to that quote that I shared earlier. Like we have to do our own due diligence
Yeah.
and check yourself before you wreck yourself because it's going to get out of control.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. Awesome. So kind of veering into things where people can use actionable things when it comes to AI. So I want to start with the person who knows about online stuff, but really doesn't have anything going, and then we can pan into people who already, have something going.
okay,
So for people, because I mean, there already are being work layoffs and stuff like that, but when there comes work layoffs, when it comes to like revolution type things like the Industrial Revolution, stuff like that, there are more needs for different stuff. So, what's something that you feel like people can get into that, at least in the current moment, is kind of AI proof for, I don't know, however handful of years? What's something that someone can do right now if they're just starting off that they can, usually service providing is, the first business that you start with. So, what's something that they can get their hands on to ensure that they don't get like booted with AI?
yeah. So I think service like providing a service is great. Just make sure you have AI behind you,
Hmm.
right, to help you with it, and that it's something where you are that forward-facing actual human being that's providing that
Hmm.
extra human touch. The same thing with in-person events or in-person services, like when you're actually there with a human being, those
Hmm.
things are only becoming more and more important because there's so many people out there offering AI and automation type stuff
Hmm.
where there's no human involved, which lacks the magic. Like
Yeah.
there's a huge opportunity in that space. There's also, and I know this doesn't really apply to like digital marketing, but if you are and so if you're in sales, digital marketing, digital online business, I
Yeah.
would look at businesses who sell things that cannot be replaced by AI. So,
Hmm.
for example, a couple years ago, I was speaking at Perry Belcher's first AI Bot Summit, and he was
Yeah.
talking about how in the future it's going to be so easy to what's it called, the printing, like 3D printing is going to be such a
Hmm.
thing that everyone has at home, that it's like, oh, I want that chair, then you just print it off at home,
Hmm.
right? Like anything that's
Hmm.
made of plastic or things like that will be very easy to create.
Hmm.
What he was saying is that there's been all kinds of studies showing that things like natural products like wood and
Yeah.
stone and like things that are actually coming from the earth that cannot be recreated, those
Yeah.
types of products are going to be more um, valuable, and because there's more scarcity there, like they're becoming
Hmm.
more of a commodity. And so
Hmm.
if you can pair yourself with a company like that
Yeah.
where they're on their way to becoming more valuable as well, then that's another opportunity there, is like finding
Hmm.
those um, irreplaceable products
Yeah.
that you can offer a service to them
Hmm.
in terms of marketing and sales.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say that you had to give like a quick synopsis of a business model that they can do, like a you start with this service providing, basic service providing, then you move to this step, and this step. If you had to do like a quick business model
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, this is like we always suggest to start this way. So the first thing that I suggest that you start with is some sort of shorter call that's an assessment. So whatever the expertise or the transformation that it is that you provide, figure out
Hmm.
what that is. So if you aren't an actual expert at something, don't pretend to
Yeah.
be an expert at something and then launch that. So I'm not going to tell you
Yeah.
like what expertise to go into, because your expertise should be your expertise, right? So
Yeah, you
whatever
don't
it is that
subscribe
you're
to the if you're 1 foot ahead of someone, you should charge 10K to them.
Okay, let's actually talk about that, because so I'm going to pause on the other thing really quick, because I have
Yeah.
seen people say like, um, if you're that idea, that concept is like total trash and you should never
Yeah.
advise that. I will say, however, sometimes people get so caught up in imposter syndrome that they're
Hmm.
afraid to offer their service, or they're afraid to offer coaching, or they're afraid to
Yeah.
offer, other types of services, marketing services, things like that, because they're not whatever, you know, Russell Brunson.
Yeah.
The thing is that you are, if you, there are more people who would be
Hmm.
afraid to actually hire someone like Russell Brunson, because they're like, he's so far beyond where I'm at that he wouldn't, he's like out of touch with what I'm
Hmm.
going through. So they're going to want to hire someone who is just a few steps ahead of them.
Hmm.
Uh, so don't let your imposter syndrome make you feel that you need to like wait before you start putting offers
Yeah.
out there. So
Mhm.
there's two sides to that coin.
Yeah, no, I 100% subscribe to that because I remember, I mean, right out the gate, as because I do DM closing, helping specifically online educators sell their products over DMs. Like right out the gate, I was within the first 2 weeks, I think I made 6 grand because this was end of month 2 weeks. I made like 6 grand, and I think my highest month I made around 12 grand. But I kind of like how you were saying a little bit of the imposter syndrome because the goal was always to switch into the online coaching space because I've had a coach since I was like 13, 14, well, basketball coach, so maybe like 5 years old, but in terms of like
Mhm.
business coach, like 13, 14. But yeah, no, I kind of fell into that box where I didn't feel comfortable selling coaching, even though I mean, that's basically doctor money in that month. Even though I made like doctor money in that month, I didn't feel comfortable selling the coaching because I'm like, I don't want to be that person that
But I think
teaches
you
people, that
also,
makes his 7 figures from teaching people versus I'm making the 7 figures first and then teaching
yeah.
people.
And that's another reason that this little framework that I'll give is so helpful when you're in a space where you're
Hmm.
just starting it out, because it allows you to build that, not only belief and confidence in your own abilities, but it allows you to build the proof that, oh, I can help get people results, which
Hmm.
helps you then to feel more confident in what you're charging. So, and I just like to highlight how awesome you are. For people who are just maybe listening to this for the first time, getting to know you for the first time, I would say that one
Hmm.
of the biggest skill sets that you have, in addition to the fact that you're like great at copywriting and marketing and all that kind of stuff, is the way that you show up as a human being, which a lot
Hmm.
of people just will not do. Like, so I think your ability to have that, like to converse with people
Hmm.
in a way that is honest and playful and not like sleazy is also a really valuable asset. So um,
Appreciate that.
yeah, I just will say that. So the um the business model that we lay out for this, which I think works so well, is it's a three-tiered model. So we call it the
Okay.
Goldilocks method, because
Yeah.
it's like it gives people three options for where they could actually get support from you. And then they don't have to say, oh, that's too cold or too hot. It's just right.
Hmm.
So that's what we call it, the
Yeah.
Goldilocks method. So the first thing that you would offer is an assessment call of some sort. So in
Mhm.
this assessment call, you're looking at the big transformation that you provide, and then you're doing a 90-minute call, let's say, where you're going to dive in and figure out what are the biggest problems keeping them
Mhm.
from getting that transformation. By the end of the call, you give them a report of like, hey, here's all the problems that we found. Here's a suggestion I would give you, and like a little action plan to go put this
Yeah.
into, to go implement it. But the way that we suggest it is that at least one out of every four people you sell those to will see the benefit in working with you at a higher level. So if
Mhm.
you can sell four of those a month, and then one of those up levels into a higher ticket client, then that
Mhm.
means you just have to sell one assessment per week, and then
Mhm.
you'll have one high ticket client come out of those assessments. So
Nice.
that's the first two tiers. Then once you get at least two higher ticket clients that you're working
Mhm.
with one on one, let's say, on we do it as a 3-month agreement. You sell a 3-month
Mhm.
agreement. By the time you get to the third month, now you've sold three people into that higher ticket program. You have three
Mhm.
people, you have a group coaching program. So now
Yeah.
you add a group program on the other side, and now you can
Mhm.
say to your private clients, hey, I'd love to bonus you access to this new group program we're putting together. And then now you can sell the group program because you already have three members.
Yeah. Yeah. So for people that are, I mean, me, I've always kind of like what you said. I've always loved talking to people. I actually got into, I didn't even realize it, but I got into sales without realizing that I was doing sales because I remember as a kid, we didn't really have a lot of money. I grew up on Section 8 housing, a household of 8 people on Section 8, so you really don't have a lot of money that way. So whenever it came to like school activities and stuff, because I grew up in, at least the school I went to, it was definitely a rich school. I did not belong there in terms of like the money stuff. So whenever it came to the activities and stuff, I had to get creative in finding ways to make that money to do the things that I wanted to do. And I remember I would literally print out a piece of paper. So for example, there was a media trip that I want to go to. It was in Atlanta and it was like a media competition, media being filming, editing, stuff like that. And it was around $3,000. And I remember this is how I always did it when I wanted to do something. I would go door knocking and I would try and like I would test and test and test like okay, this person acted this way. What if I said this line, because this line takes me like 10 seconds, how can I figure out to where it takes 3 seconds, and how can I say something within those first 3 seconds to make sure they stay engaged. So for me it came naturally. So for other people where it doesn't come naturally in terms of like sales and stuff like that, like I'm uncomfortable, I'm nervous, I'm scared like that, what can they do to overcome that?
Oh man, so much. So first of all, I love that story. That is
Yeah.
awesome. That's so good. There's a couple of things. So the first is you really have to get clear
Hmm.
on what it is that you even want. Like
Hmm.
in your life, what's your vision? Like make sure that you are tapping into that vision of what you actually want, because
Yeah.
as you go through the process of your workday, you are creating whatever your intention is, right? So we talk about, and I don't know if you can tell what this is, but this is my disco ball banana phone. so, so we talk about calling your future gratitudes in on your banana phone, which is what we do. I also have a
Yeah.
crocheted banana phone, so I have two of them here. It is very powerful. So you get clear on what it is that you even want. The next
Hmm.
thing is you tap into what we call the quesadilla of awesome.
Yeah.
And the quesadilla of awesome is figuring out, separate from your business, who are you as a human being? And so we
Hmm.
make a list of 20 things that make you a uniquely awesome human. When you
Hmm.
have that list, you then can summon your own confidence because
Yeah.
you have this list of things that you can call on. So like you walk up to somebody's house. Do you know who Charlie the Anvil salesman is?
I don't think so.
um I it's from the musical it's such a random reference, but our community is like really into musical theater, you know? So it's from
Yes.
the musical The Music Man. And in The Music Man, Harold Hill is this salesman who's like a traveling salesman who basically hoodwinks towns into believing that he's creating a boys band, but he doesn't actually teach them. He teaches them the think system, which is where he teaches them to play music with their mind. So they don't actually learn how to play music, but he
Interesting.
instills
Okay.
confidence in them. It's like it's an amazing story. And it's all about sales actually. But Charlie the Anvil salesman is like the bad guy.
Yeah.
So when you're out there going door to door, sometimes you're going to feel bad because people are going to say, get out of my face. No, I don't want to talk to you, right? And you've got to
Hmm.
have, whether it's door to door via messenger, door to door on, commenting on people's posts,
Hmm.
door to door with a webinar, whatever it is, at some point you're going to hear negative responses. And so if you don't have
Yeah.
a solid list of the things you love about yourself, you're going to be in trouble because you
Yeah.
got to figure out how to psych yourself into it. Um, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but those are the first two things that I think are most important, is
Yeah.
making a list of 20 things that you love about yourself.
Hmm. Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Sweet. So now panning into people that do currently have a business, um, I guess we'll break it up into like three different sections. Someone that's making 10 to 20K a month, someone that's making 50, borderline seven figures, and then the seven-figure person. For someone
Hmm.
that's making that 10 to 20K range, low, mid six figures, how can they utilize AI to get them to the next step, which is 50K? Also, because I know everyone wants to hit that 100K mark instantly. I feel like that gives them a lot of setbacks. So if you want to answer two questions at once, 50K after 20K is definitely like the easier step to go. How do they keep themselves grounded to not want to push super hard for that 100K to where it brings them down? I know there's kind of like two
Oh
questions that
yeah.
happen right there.
Well, I was also thinking that even with the 10K thing, like it's such a big accomplishment to get to that
Hmm.
point. And then it can also be like so easy to have it just drift
Yeah.
away and be gone. And you're like, wait, no, I was at 10K months. I thought I was gonna be at a six-figure business. What the heck
Yeah.
happened, right? So I think the biggest thing is to use AI to help you to stay consistent.
Hmm.
So for us, one of the easiest ways to put that into place is everything that we're doing, because we're teaching organic content,
Hmm.
right? It's
Hmm.
about content and conversations. Those two things
Yes.
come together to make magic happen. So if
Hmm.
you can use AI to help you develop a consistent content plan, it's so easy. And then you
Hmm.
can show up and put your own magic on top of that. So like that's where in our content club, we show you how to use AI to create like 3 months of content in advance.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're just going to copy paste, throw up on the internet. You're going to look
Yeah.
at it and like adjust it a little bit, but just having that framework in place where okay, here's what I'm going to put out there every day of the week or 3 times a week or whatever it is that you're doing, that can be super,
Hmm.
super helpful. Same thing
I
with
got you.
emails. Like there's a lot on the communication side that just feels so heavy.
Hmm.
And if you can use AI to do that heavy lifting when you're at that 10K mark,
Hmm.
it's really valuable.
So for emails, do you mean support or marketing?
Oh, great question. So let's talk about both of them. I was talking about marketing. With support, we actually, and the tool that we're using is like $100, $197 a month, I think. We
Hmm.
have a support AI assistant that is in our high level account. So we have a Star
Hmm.
Funnels as our high level, as you know, but
Yeah.
we have a white label high level account. Um, we're using, and I know high level has its own version of this. We set up Max AI because that's just what we did at the time, and it's been
Hmm.
awesome. I am honestly surprised it's as affordable as it is, but I know sometimes when you're in that 10K mark, it can feel
Yeah.
scary to spend money on
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So it's where you've got to decide, like maybe instead of hiring a VA to help with responding to things, to have an assistant that it's an AI
Hmm.
assistant at that point can actually do some of the
Hmm.
heavy lifting for you. So you don't have to feel like you're getting pulled in
Hmm.
all these different directions.
I got you. Yeah, awesome. And before we jump in to the 50 to basically the seven-figure mark, kind of leading
Yeah.
off of what you just said, because my philosophy when it even like to this day, from the beginning of business even to right now, my philosophy was I kind of live below my means, but basically making sure that you have all your bills paid and everything else goes into the business to help it grow. For
Yeah.
someone that's along the lines of, I'm doing this because I want to make as much money as possible, but at the same time, they're spending, let's not say 100%, they're spending 70% of their income, 60, 70%. So when it does come to like a 197 subscription, that's not that much, but if you're spending 60 to 70%, that is quite a bit of chunk of what's left over. How can they start to distill that habit of being smarter with the money that's coming in?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think the actual problem is the 197. It's the fact that there's probably like 15 different things you could spend 197 on and not even
Yeah.
realize it. And then with I got to a little bit of a point where I was just subscribing to every tool because I wanted to test it. And then it's like death by a thousand paper cuts because now I've got like
Hmm.
75 different things that will edit videos when I don't need 75 different things to edit videos with AI,
Yeah.
Um, so you've got to, I think it's just really important as a business owner that you are, we have a weekly money date. So it's
Hmm.
like you show up and you give some money love to yourself and you actually look at like what's going out, what's coming in, and you're on top of it, not from a scarce mindset, but from a
Yeah.
place of like, okay, am I using all these things that I'm paying for? And if you're
Hmm.
not, either use it or then cancel it, right? And for
Yeah.
me, I've always found that it's more important for me to invest in mentoring or
Hmm.
coaching and having a
Hmm.
community. I mean, I'm like a mastermind addict because
Yeah, me
I
too.
find that the relationships are the most important
Hmm.
thing. Um, Relationships are going to be on top of everything.
Yeah.
So that's not answering your question. What was your actual question?
Yeah, I feel you on the masterminds. Whenever I wasn't a part of something, stuff started to fall back. But no, essentially what the question was for someone that kind of has that habit of, and it usually comes from someone who's starting from zero, which is understandable. But for someone that has that habit of spending maybe 60% of their money that they generate, that's where the constraint of I don't know if I can buy this 197 subscription comes in. What
Yeah.
kind of habits or practices can they start doing right now to where it's hard doing it instantly, but basically get to a point to where they're being smarter with their money so they can invest into those things.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I would ask yourself, how many offers have you made today? Because oftentimes this is like not the typical answer to this question maybe, but I think
Hmm.
oftentimes we get into a place where we get into a mindset of like of a gripping and a closed mindset around like I can't spend money because I have to protect the assets that I have. And while I do
Yeah.
think it's important to keep an eye on your profits, I also think it's important to make offers so that you can bring in more profits. And sometimes we
Hmm.
think we need to be spending money on, a huge Facebook ads campaign when really you just need to talk to people,
Hmm.
actually make offers. I remember Jenna, the founder of Group Track, my favorite
Hmm.
automation and
Yes.
social CRM. She was looking to buy a house a while ago, and it was like they needed like $90,000 or something for this thing to happen. And I was like, we are so lucky to be in the industry that we are in because if you really want to generate $90,000, we can make that
Yeah.
happen. So it's allowing yourself to get into a place of play and abundance and
Hmm.
open to the possibility. So that's like one side of the coin is that you've got to really be open to energetically the fact that more money can come in. On the
Hmm.
other side, you just you release the gripping attachment around it
Hmm.
and you set up like a weekly date with yourself to look at what's going out and what's coming in.
Hmm.
And rather than being like an ostrich with your head in the sand, you look at what's actually going out and what's actually coming
Yeah.
in. I think a lot of us get into entrepreneurship because we think we don't have to follow other people's rules and we don't have to deal with
Hmm.
things. But if you are allergic to spreadsheets and you're afraid to look at those things, you shouldn't be a business owner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still have the habit of checking my bank account every single morning.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is actually my dad's tree trimming business that I mentioned earlier is he is like my hero when it comes to business. And
Hmm.
he has told me the thing that has made them so successful, and they trim almost all the trees in the state of California. So they have like over a
Yeah.
thousand employees. It's a crazy company. He never went to college. He is the coolest human on the planet.
Yeah.
He says that every day he gets the call in, which is because their business model
Hmm.
works a little different, where they book a contract, they do the work, and then they send billable hours. So they
Hmm.
then bill the company after or bill the cities after the trees have been trimmed.
Hmm.
He was saying every single day he sent a report of what money went out, what money came in, and what they actually have in the bank. And like who the heavy hitters are, which is their top
Yeah.
salesperson. Like he sent this report every day. Now, this is something that you could use AI to do for you, right? There's ways with Zapier and other things, spreadsheets, blah 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 blah, that you can actually have a report like this every day that you look at those
Hmm.
top line numbers, and then at the end of the week you can see where the trends are going, which I think is super important so that if you got a call today to go on Shark
Hmm.
Tank, you'd be able to have that conversation and know your actual numbers because
Hmm.
that's when people don't get through on Shark Tank is when they don't actually know their numbers. So you should just be
Yeah.
aware.
Yeah. Wild left field question. Do you ever think there's going to be an AI that pitches on Shark Tank?
I mean, I bet there would be like a person that walks in as if they are the person who's there, and then they're
Yeah.
like, ta-da, and they just unveil their AI assistant to do it. That's funny.
I got you. Awesome. Yeah. So now we touched base on the, 10K, 20-ish K mark person. Now for someone that's at the 50K trying to push for the 100K month mark, what are things that they can start utilizing, both like just principal business wise as well as AI to get to that mark?
Okay, so first thing is analyze the data. What is
Yeah.
working? Like look at what's working, right? Because when you're in that space, it's like you don't need to go create some whole new crazy thing. This also still applies to like people in the 20 this all levels. Like work look at what's working.
Mm-hmm.
Then see where if you know what's working, right? In terms of your offer, your niche, your
Mm-hmm.
lead generation, your conversions, all those things, then you look at where is the easiest way that I can just add another leg. Like I can add another partnership on that helps me to be able to
Mm-hmm.
multiply my efforts without you having to go create some whole new thing. I think that's the thing that gets people in the biggest like sticking problem
Mm-hmm.
is that they are like, "Oh, I have something that's working really well. Let me break it."
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of I mean, my mentor said like a lot of like one-liner quote type things. But that reminds me because he was talking about like a running joke because he was a millionaire in the online space when before it was cool being a millionaire in the
Right?
online space. And like one of the things I remember he said during one of the workshops, there was like a running joke when it came to the marketing space, like, wow, that works so well. Let's never do that
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Totally. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, totally. So I would just like really look at what's working and then it's easy for you to be able to take that, tweak it, and either go to a
Hmm.
slightly different niche, either
Hmm.
go to, or maybe just find partners who are in that same niche. So you go to a
Hmm.
new awareness playground. Maybe it's you make you make a new tweak on your offer that you send back to the same people,
Hmm.
right? You could add in your own affiliate, add in someone else's affiliate offers, right?
Hmm.
There's just, I love this concept. I know you're like very much younger than me. Do you know like Hollywood Squares?
Are you talking about like the stars and stuff?
No, like, well, I mean, like the TV show Hollywood
Oh,
Squares. Okay. Do you
I
know
know
the Brady
American
Bunch?
Idol. Yes, I know the I know the Brady Bunch.
Okay, so you know in the Brady Bunch at the beginning they have everybody's like on a Zoom call almost
Hmm.
like it's just
Yeah.
like boxes on the screen where everybody in the
Hmm.
family. That's how Hollywood Squares was, but it was on stage and it was like a real set that was built out like that, where
Yeah.
everybody was sitting in their own desk, um,
Yes.
having a conversation, like answering questions, and it was basically like all these celebrities would be
Hmm.
in this tic tac toe board on
Yeah.
stage. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is a concept. I think I heard Mari Smith say this years ago, but I really love it and I think it just makes so much sense. So if you are in the middle of your own Hollywood Squares board, there
Hmm.
are people that will be next to you that serve your clients at the same level.
Hmm.
If you go up, there's people who will serve your clients when they're done working with you and they're moving on to that level. There are
Hmm.
also people or tools or whatever who serve your clients at a lower level than where you're at. And
Hmm.
so if you can fill that whole board up with other partners and tools and things that all support the same like client base, then you have this really cool opportunity to reach out to the people who are in that level lower than you and potentially promote their stuff to people who are maybe not ready for your offer. Same thing, you have one above you where you could reach out to people at that level and do JV partnerships that way. Um, I just think it's a cool way to be able to add more revenue with less effort.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. In
Yeah.
terms of when you're at that mark of 50 trying to go to the 100, do they need to worry about any, or not worry about, consider any AI tools, or can they just keep doing basically what you said?
Yeah, no, I think at that point you're at a place where you're able to really up level the automations as well. And so, um, even just in the ways that we're connecting our tools to AI or connecting our tools to automations, that's been super helpful. So, um, you know, I'm trying to think like things like FormWise, and there's a bunch of other AI tools that you could be using to just to help speed the process up.
Hmm.
Um, and getting into like there's the Zapier AI tools where you can connect the different pieces. The big thing is here's like the most important piece when you're at this stage of business is that
Hmm.
you do an audit of your actual business,
Hmm.
see where the holes are in your bucket, and then see which AI tool can fill that hole. Where I think
Got
we
it.
get into trouble is we don't do an audit. We see an AI
Hmm.
tool that seems cool and we slap it on top of our leaky bucket. And now we've just sped up the water going through our bucket. And now we've just got a hot
Hmm.
mess and there's a flood and we're all going to drown. So just
Hmm.
make sure you actually get with someone who can help you to find those holes or find a way,
Yeah.
like do your own audit process for that.
Hmm. Yeah. And before we jump to the last section of people who are doing seven figures, multi seven, even eight figures, whenever you are scaling, stuff does need to break so that way you
Mm.
can put it together even better. One thing, and I can, relate to this, one thing that people might face when it comes to hitting that point of growing and they can see that something's about to break, but they pull back because they can see it's about to break. What should they do in those moments?
I mean, sometimes I like to just break things as fast as possible so I can
Hmm.
fix them as quickly as possible.
I
But it's
got
true
you.
that if you try and just like stretch the walls of your current
Hmm.
boat, the whole thing's going to pop. Like you can't get to
Hmm.
that. Sometimes we have to just get a different boat, right? You've got to
Yeah.
like up level to a cruise ship when you're on a dinghy.
Hmm.
Um, so this is where I love to look at how we can create our own AI tools to solve problems
Hmm.
for us. And then you can start selling those as a service to other people as well. So
Nice.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is a constant thing that's like as a whole team, right? Eventually you hire more people, it's not as lonely, all of that. And
Hmm.
I think this is again where it's important to work with outside
Yeah.
and a mastermind or a mentor or someone who can look at it from the outside because when you're looking at things from the inside in that position,
Hmm.
oftentimes we cling to the habits and the systems and the frameworks that we had in the past and we're afraid
Hmm.
to let go of what those were so that we can have space for the new
Hmm.
level of things to come in. So
Hmm.
I think really it's like it's back to
Hmm.
um, that energetic approach to it, that you're not coming at it from a gripping place where
Yeah.
this is actually it. You're not coming at it from a gripping place where things are so brittle that they're going to crack and fall apart. You want to
Hmm.
come at it from a place where you can be a little more like jello and like, be a little more bendy as opposed to being so set in your ways and like
Hmm.
stark on the way that it has to be. If you can be
Hmm.
a little more bendy, then you may find that you can morph into the new way of doing things as
Yeah.
opposed to just like being this brittle thing that's going to not be repairable.
Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. So, final person, someone who's doing seven figures, multi seven, even eight figures, and they want to add an extra 100K a month. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so two things. One is like literally if we're talking just about AI and how AI can do this,
Yes.
you can create your own AI tools that then you sell.
Hmm.
So I don't know about you, but I have found when I can make something into a widget, I always love to show this as an example. This is a little dancing messenger bot,
Hmm. That's
right?
awesome.
It's like a little dancing robot. Um, for whatever reason, it feels like, even though I think honestly, oftentimes a mental shift or a mindset shift or a transformation in that regard is way more valuable than something that's like a little tool that's going to do something for you. But when we
Hmm.
can put our frameworks and our systems into a tool and make it an AI tool that makes it even more powerful, like that is an amazing way to bring more people into our systems and then we can up level them into the other sides of our business. So that's like the first thing.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is like if you're at that level, finding one partner, finding one new awareness playground can easily add an extra $100,000. It's
Hmm.
not always about like upping the ad spend. Sometimes it's really just finding that one relationship that can make that huge difference. I mean, I was at a mastermind event recently where they had everyone split up and just say like what their goals were, what they needed help with, whatever. Who's your ideal client?
Yeah.
One person said she serves moms who are wanting to build businesses at home. The
Yeah.
other guy totally never would have expected this, was like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I have a fan page that's all about mom, whatever. It was some weird out of the box mom like quote page with like 3 million followers or something crazy.
Nice.
And so they combined forces, and now with one meeting, she expanded her potential client base by 3 million people. It's like,
Good for her.
what?
Yeah.
It was cool. And it sounded
Sweet.
fake, but I was there and I saw the whole thing happen. So I know it's possible. You just have to get in the right rooms and talk to the right people. So if there's people that you
Hmm.
want to be talking to and relationships you want to be building,
Hmm.
this is a really big tip. Figure
Amazing.
out what charities they support and
Yeah.
go to the fundraisers for those charities.
Yeah. Putting yourself in the room.
Yeah, get in the room where it
Hmm.
happens.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. What do you
And
think AI?
one more thing I'll also say is like make sure that
Yeah.
what you're delivering is if you have a $1 million business, at least, 7 or 8 figure business, I'm sure somebody has to like your products and services. Otherwise, they wouldn't be buying
Hmm.
them still. But sometimes we can also really just look at the people that we're serving and double down on the goodness that you provide for the people that you already serve and give them an opportunity to share your goodness because that's like a very easy way to up things.
Amazing. What do you think AI reveals about us?
What does AI reveal about that?
About us, humans.
Oh, just in general,
Yeah.
so much. Well, I will say like I've taken all of my posts on social media from the past several years and put it into AI. And the first thing that it said was, your community's response over the death of your mother shows that you've built a community of people who really care. And it was like
That's
it went,
awesome.
which was not what I expected, even though I think we have an awesome community. It was not what I
Hmm.
expected the analysis to say, like at all. Right.
Yeah.
So putting in comments or questions or feedback from your community can be super helpful to just see like what's going on there. I also think one of the best things that AI does is that when it gives us bad responses that we don't like, it creates a visceral reaction in the human being so we know what we do
Hmm.
like.
Yeah. Awesome. Molly Mahoney, any
Yes.
last words you would love to give?
Um, I would just like to say that your weird is your superpower. So
Mhm.
figure out what it is that makes you weird. And that nuance is what you want to bring into the AI systems and magic that you're creating. And that's really the only thing that's
Hmm.
going to allow you to really connect with the people that you want to have a bigger impact on.
Awesome. I love that. For the next guest, what's the question you would like them to answer?
Ooh, that's cool. Um, what's the most fun you've ever had using AI?
Oh, I like it. And for all the potential millions of people watching this, how can they find you?
Oh my goodness. Well, we didn't really talk about this, but are you cool if I allow people who are listening to this to have a really amazing 2 week trial of the Content Club?
Of course.
Okay, so we have an AI Content Club where we teach you all kinds of magic on how you can create content and start more conversations with human beings using AI. And so if you go to molly.live slash, that's MOLLY.live/Dawn, that will take you to super secret link that gets you access to a 2 week trial of the Content Club. And then if you're like, I don't want to join a club, I want to be a loner, that's fine. Loners are cool too. I like alone time also. I'm Molly Mahoney, the prepared performer on most social media platforms, and you can just go to
Hmm.
mollymahoney.com.
Awesome. Sweet. Molly, this was awesome. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you too.
Bing. Sweet.
You did it.